like for me, when I did that, the very first thing out of my thought process was, how could I have done that? How could I have done what I did to this little 6-year-old girl when I endured what I endured?
Mm.
And so then again, I went and seeked help, but it's accepting the responsibility and being man enough, or let's just say being grown up enough to accept the wrong, because you're not going to be able to change the wrong until you understand what the right is.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to No Judgment Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. Boy, I am so glad you are here. Man, if you missed last week, my episode last week with Charles, Coach Chuck, you need to go back and watch it. I'm going to give you a quick recap. Last week, we spoke to Charles. We spoke about his childhood, the childhood abuse, the beatings, the family violence, domestic violence, alcoholism, addiction, and what that did to him as a child. He went to 28 or 29 different schools as a child. He went to a safe place and made a promise to Jesus. And it just gives me chills. Through our promises to the Lord, we are tested, but we remain strong, steadfast, and steady in our faith. Sometimes as youth, we walk away from the path I think that the Lord places us on, but we know He's nearby. We know He's near. We know that He never walks away from us. We just have to turn our face back to Him. And this story today, Charles is coming on to conclude last week's episode, but today we're talking about redemption, breaking cycles, breaking chains, breaking addictions, and becoming the light. And he is a light in so many people's lives. Boy, he shared some good news too. We'll hear about that at the end of the podcast, but we're going to go ahead and bring Coach Chuck in. There he is. Welcome in. I'm so happy to see you.
And likewise, it's always nice to see a smiling, beautiful face.
Thank you. Thank you. Back to you. So we're going to dive in because we have so much to talk about. We spoke about the childhood abuse, the beatings, the domestic violence, the domestic abuse that you witnessed your mother going through, the neglect as a child, the alcoholism that you witnessed. You went to 29 different schools. Was it 29?
28.
28 different schools.
By the time I hit my sophomore year in high school, that was my 28th.
Geez, 28 different schools. I mean, gosh, that alone, what that could do to a child. You were adopted by a mentor once you left home and you moved out on your own. We know that lastly, the last thing that we spoke about was your mother passing. And I had asked you, because you had left and you had had enough, and you shared with your mom that that was enough and you left. I had asked you about if you felt any sort of regret or if you felt badly about saying, Mom, I'm done. This is enough. I've had enough. And you walked out. And you said no, that you didn't. And then you got a phone call
1 year later.
1 year later that your mom had passed.
On Mother's Day.
Christine. On Mother's Day, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about after you moved into your own place, after you saw or spoke to your mother for the last time, you also experienced, or I don't want to say partake, but you became domestic violent yourself, and you also were substance abusive, and you were also child abusive. Let's talk about that. Let's move through that. And then I want to move to discussing things like self-awareness, choices, and healing. But tell us a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. We couldn't do it all in one session in an hour, so we're back for part two. And this is the how, why, and when, or the when, why, and how. And you know, yeah, I lost my mother on Mother's Day. I had not spoken to her in 1 year, and then I got word late that evening on Mother's Day that she had passed. I had to bury her. That was another thing with all the alcoholics and disrespecting her, picking her head up, sticking flowers on her, drunk, cussing, whatever. But I was able to lay my mother because Pat, when I left that year earlier, my mother was gone. Pat was still alive,
Mm.
and I wanted nothing to do with Pat. So when I found out that she passed, I was able to bury her, give her proper burial, and was able to move on in my life. However, because of the 13 years of the negative environment that I lived in, the domestic violence, the child abuse, suicidal, alcoholism, all of that negative stuff, those are all traits
Mhm.
that are passed down from generation to generation to generation. Little did I know, like leeches, I had several of those traits attached to me, as some of us do, whether it's a positive trait or a negative trait.
Mhm.
And so when I became abusive, I went and sought help. And I went to a psychiatrist, I can't remember which one, and he listened to what I had to say. And he looked at me and he says, "You have traits." And I asked him if he could, I'm a street kid. Can you break that down a little simpler for me?
Mm.
What? And he said, the bottom line is your stepfather is coming out of you. What happened to you, your stepfather knew. That's all he knew. And so that's how he raised you. And those traits attach themselves to you, and you became domestic violent, you became child abusive, you became a user, nothing hard, just alcohol and weed and maybe some cocaine, and but that was who I was, and I was just living a life, as most of us do. We just live our life, and then we ask ourselves, "Why did you do like when I became abusive? How could I do that?" I literally asked myself, "How could I do that?" And I needed answers, so I went and sought help, and that's when I found out I had traits.
Mm.
And then I had to start working on them, because just because I realized and I became aware doesn't mean that it was changed, because the PTSD, even to this day, 4 months short of 70, I still deal with my PTSD from all those years of negative. So I just basically realized, and then again, marriage issues. I got annulled after 28 days with a young lady that I was with for 5 years. We fought like cats and dogs. So here's a trait. My
Mm.
mother, off and on, off and on, off and on. Me and my girlfriend at that time, which happened to be my foster mother's niece, we were together 5 years through high school. We ended up fighting like cats and dogs, and we decided we were going to get married. We were 21 years old, and everybody said, "You two fight so much. What do you? Who are you to tell me at 21 years old what I can and can't do?" Hello, and we got married. She beat me up on my honeymoon. On the way back from Hearst Castle in California, I had a joint. I'm just telling it the way it is. It's raw and it's real. I had a joint. And I was going down the California coastline. It was going. The sunset was going down, and I decided it was time to fire that puppy up. Listening to 70s music and a Thunderbird, one of those big 1977 Thunderbirds that I rented. And she was next to me until I fired that thing up. And prior to that, we indulged together. But we got married, and all of a sudden, she changed.
Mm.
So she started beating me up, and then that wasn't the only time that she put her hands on me or I put my hands on her. And I told her, "Don't put your hands on me, and I won't put my hands on you." We ended up getting annulled after 28 days because we shouldn't have done it. But once
Mhm.
again, go back, come together, go back, come together. That's all part of it. That time, I did not know that I was stuck in this trait about leaving and coming back. But that's what happened as I was growing up. So that trait was attached to me. And then I had another relationship, and the second relationship that I had, where I have another child, excuse me, another daughter. That's when started becoming domestic violent. She had a daughter that was older than the one that we had together, and that's who I became child abusive with. I actually literally one day lost control and picked her up and threw her across the room into the wall. And that's when it hit me like, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Because see, those traits, they'll have you do things that, and you'll ask the question of, why did I just do that? How could I just do what I did when that's the life that I lived and I hate it?
Mm-hmm.
That's the trait. So when the doctor told me that my stepdad had come out in me and I was doing exactly and he's absolutely right, I had to make some changes, but it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy making change because I had a lot of traits, a lot of cycles that I had to break. And again, I was 21 years old, 22, 23, 26, 28. The light finally lit up about 28 years old, and I started making some changes.
Mm-hmm. And then at some point, you said that you also even thought or attempted to end your life.
Altogether, 3 times. One time when I was, so here's another trait. God is so good that 33 years after the mother of our daughter, our youngest, she was 15, I was 17 when our daughter was born. She was a sophomore in high school. I was going into my junior year. She and I broke up. I was still in my foster home, and I was damaged. I still took care of my financial situation. I still took care of my child financially, but I was gone. 33 years later, God gave me a second chance with my very first love, and we were together for 16 years until she passed away in Hawaii from cancer.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got that second chance, there was a time in our relationship, because I was in the process of separation and divorce. She had lost her husband. He had passed away. We found each other, or God brought us back together. But then there was that moment of, or time of, you know, I still think I should try it with my wife. I really think I should get back with my wife. And I attempted that, and it caused a lot of problems, not just with me and my youngest daughter, but with my girlfriend at the time, my fiance. She ended up being my fiance, because I said I need a timeout, and I needed that timeout because I wanted to go back and try again, which it didn't happen. But that's again a trait that somehow or other something drew me to trying it again, the same way that my mother and my stepdad tried it again and again and again and again and again. Well, then that's when I realized that it was a little bit more than just understanding that I had traits. My stepdad was coming out with me. I literally needed to make some changes in my life for the positive. I needed to drop some things, but I had to realize which ones I had to drop. Was it suicidal? So at that time, I was drinking a lot because I was seeing my ex-wife, the one that I was, we were separated. I had my own apartment. I was seeing her, but I was also seeing my girlfriend, my first love, and I was battling back and forth, and I was drinking heavily. I had 12 packs, 18 packs of empty cans in the box, Bud Light, stacked up in my kitchen from the floor all the way to the ceiling, empty cans. And I was really, really, probably really, really drunk. And my dad called me, and I was playing Russian roulette.
Hmm.
And he upset me to where I got pissed off. And I said, "Oh yeah, really, really, really?" I jumped up and I pointed the gun into the bed, and it went off. So had I decided to put the click on, I'd have been gone.
Mm.
And so that was a moment of, wow, really? And I had the blanket for a long time, but had 2 holes in it because I fired 2 shots off. So, and that wasn't the first time. I had 2 other episodes where I actually contemplated suicide, because suicide was part of me growing up. My mother tried to commit suicide many times. I had 2 uncles that committed suicide. Suicide was or attempted suicide was part of an experience I was raised in. So yes, I did 3 times.
Wow. So I think that as we talk about these traits, and before we move into how you made the choices and to heal and whatnot, do you forgive your parents?
I'm glad that you asked me that, and I was hoping that you would, so I wouldn't have to bring it up myself. Here's the thing: when you become aware, almost like on islands, we say that you're not an alcoholic till you attend your first AA meeting. Oh, I'm going to go. I'm going to. You never go. You never going to go, because once you go, you become aware, and once you become aware, then you're going to accept, and once you've accepted, then you're going to go move into one day at a time. That's what an alcoholic or drug addiction, one day at a time. And so when I became aware and I started working on that, I also became aware of how those traits work. And my stepdad was a good, hardworking man. He really was. He was a provider. We had good times. We had a lot of bad times. He was a victim the same way that I was a victim, the same way that our youth, uh, women or men, men can be domestic violent. Women
Yes.
can be domestic violent. Men on men, women on women, women on men, men on women. It's all part of being domestic with a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I became aware and I truly started to understand how these traits work, my stepdad was just a victim of the environment that he lived in, and that's all he knew. So I did forgive him, and I still have forgiven him. It doesn't mean that you forget. You can forgive, still never forget. I mean, like I told you last week, I still have nightmares. I still have to wake up in the middle of the night, open my eyes up, and I call it changing the channel. I don't like what I'm watching, and I wake up, open my eyes for a little bit, and I change the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I still deal with my PTSD. It's not, I don't let it affect me like it used to. I have a better control of it. But yes, I did come to a realization that my stepdad was a victim of the environment that he lived in, and that's all he knew. He just, the way that he went about disciplining or correcting, showing manners or whatever, was the only way that he knew.
Let me ask you this question before I forget. So I know that we're going to talk about, like, we have self-awareness, choices, and healing, and we chatted a little bit about forgiveness, but why do you think, Charles, that because I love my dad, man, I love my dad, and I love my mom, and my dad was an alcoholic, a raging alcoholic, and we were um, physically and mentally abused. And growing up, I too became self aware and knew that I could not drink, wanted to break that chain, decided I cannot drink because I could drink. But I became self aware, and I just made me love my dad more, thinking about, wow, that's how he grew up. But I wonder, why do you think that some are not self aware? Because I wondered as a child, wonder why my dad doesn't know, forgive them for they know not what they do. But as a child, I didn't know that. And I used to think, how come he doesn't know that he's doing something wrong? And why does he not love us enough to stop? Why do you think some people are self aware and others are not? I mean, you're self aware and you.
Accepting, realization, accepting that you are the animal, you have become the animal, or you become the bad person that you grew up with or that was part of your life. And when it starts looking like you're wearing the same kind of coat, you're not going to accept it. Well, how could, like for me, when I did that, the very first thing out of my thought process was, how could I have done that? How could I have done what I did to this little 6-year-old girl when I endured what I endured?
Mm.
And so then again, I went and seeked help. But it's accepting the responsibility and being, for me, being man enough, or let's just say being grown up enough to accept the wrong, because you're not going to be able to change the wrong until you understand what the right is.
That is so true. Accepting responsibility, ownership, seeking forgiveness, admitting, there's admittance, you have to admit. And like you said, it takes a lot for people, all of us, people, human beings, to accept the wrongs. And we can't undo the past, but we can certainly make decisions to better ourselves and better those around us. I think a lot of people don't understand that while they may be the alcoholic or a substance abuser or the domestic violent person or child abusive, that they believe that their choices only affect them. It's, I'm the one that's the alcoholic, I'm the one that's drinking and not hurting anybody else. But unfortunately, we need to realize that the choices that we make every day, not only affect us, but they affect everyone around us. And it may not affect everyone around us right away, but it can in the future. And so you became.
Well, on that real quick, the key word to all of that is denial.
Yes.
Denying yourself when the process is going through of why, when, how, whatever. Denying that you could even think about doing it. Well, you're not thinking about it because your actions have already been implemented, have already pushed their way into your existence, and you just do it. So now that you do it and you try and figure out why you're doing it, now, okay, well, I'm doing it. Well, oh no, I couldn't do that. I mean, no. And then so denial is something very, very hard to get over. Accepting it. Okay, so either way you want to look at it, denying, then finally accepting the denial, that the reality of it is that you are indeed the animal that you never wanted to be.
That's tough. I say that with just thinking about family members, or and like I said, I love my dad so much, and I feel badly that I guess he grew up in a generation where they didn't discuss things. But even though you grow up in a generation where you don't discuss things, wouldn't you?
Here's an example real quick. I have like 6 or 7 blogs that I put together. Where's my daddy, trauma and pain, and one of them is child abuse. So you had a hard day at work, you come home, you're really, really tired, and your child wants to play with you. And you ask for just a few moments to wind down. Okay? You just need that woosah moment. And that child is so happy, almost like this dog is running around the apartment now.
Yes.
And I'm trying to give him the stink eye so he'll stop, so he's not making too much noise to interrupt what we're doing. But then all of a sudden, you're not given that time, that precious moment. And what do? You slap that child. And in my blog, it talks about, of all the things that you could do, all the different things that you could do, you chose to physically put your hands on that child. Why?
That's hard.
That's all you know. That's all I knew. And in there, it talks about in all I knew was conquer, control, damage assessment, and be the alpha. That's all I knew, because that's how I grew up. There was no in betweens. It was attack, destroy, and control. And I'm sure that along the way, watching my mother be stabbed with knives, watching her be cut with swords, watching her look like Rocky Raccoon, or somebody that just spent a weekend at a snow resort skiing, and they take the goggles off and her face was destroyed. But that was her choice. And so I did hate my stepdad. I despised my stepdad. I physically at a certain age in my life, and because I found out through the grapevine that my stepdad had talked to some of my other side of the family, not my foster family. I was totally separated from that, but I still had connections with some of my cousins that I grew up with, that we lived together. We stayed together when we got abandoned for however long it might be, when they went on their drunken binges. And I just remember really thinking about how much I hated my father, my stepdad. And there was a time that I found out through the grapevine, he had, once again, drunk, loose lips, had said the only reason why my foster mother, a widowed Japanese lady, at that time she was about 42 years old, the only reason why she adopted me is because she wanted a 16-year-old stud in her life. I went off. I was into martial arts. I destroyed my dresser, my bed. Mom came in. She tried to calm me down. I said, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to go over and I'm going to kill him. And she said, why? I said, because I've had enough. I've had enough. Now he's attacking. I'm hearing this. He's attacking what I have now that is so good to me, that's actually changed my life, that he can't do nothing more than attack that. No, I'm done. And you know what she did? She calmed me down. And she asked me, she says, so what are you going to do when you do that? I said, and? She says, so who's going to win? I said, and? You're not going to stop me. I'm going. She said, who's going to win? And she calmed me down to enough that I said, I don't care. She said, well, you know what? He's going to win. You're going to be put in jail for a very long time. You're going to have to deal with the situation that you allowed yourself to get into, the action that you took, and you're going to pay the price. And ultimately, he's going to win. And I had to eat that a little bit. I had to really digest that. So that's when I started learning how to digest things. You got to chew it. You got to swallow it. Sometimes swallowing it is not the cure, because you still have to be able to digest it and keep it down. But I was able to digest it, and she was 100% right that ultimately he would win. And for me, him winning was not an answer, because indeed he was a loser. So why would I want to lower myself to his standards and allow him to affect the rest of my life?
Exactly. And he would have won. He would have won. And that would have been worse, I think, than we think, oh gosh, I'm going to find some relief, and finally beating the crap out of someone who beat me up all these years. It's my turn, right? It's my turn. I'm going to end this.
Here's the thing. When I talk about my PTSD and the dark side, I am not proud of the things that I've done in my life. Unfortunately, it was just things that happened in my life. It was my journey. I'm not sure if I told you or not that I had to take my niece home. My sister was not able to drive. My mother was drunk with my aunt. My best friend was spending the night with me, and we took off. I was 15 years old. We took off and drove, because I've been driving since I was 9. I would be sat out in a car in a parking lot for hours while the parents were inside this particular bar drinking. If I was lucky, I'd get a bag of potato chips or a Slim Jim, or maybe a hot dog and a soda. And they'd be so jacked up. I was driving at 9 and 10 years old. They'd put a pillow underneath me, and I would drive them home. So here I am, 15 years old, sophomore in high school, driving my sister and my firstborn niece home. And on the way back, I get a ticket. Helicopter over the top, lights lit up, lights behind me. My friend, he's over there pooting. Cop comes over, roll down the window. I got a gun pointed at me. He asked me for my driver's license and my registration. I don't have it. I explained to him about my mother being drunk and she couldn't drive, yada, yada, yada. He gave me a ticket. That was traumatizing. That whole experience was traumatizing. And I go home, and my mother and my stepdad's sister, which was also an alcoholic at that time, was continuing to drink whiskey, Sunnybrook whiskey, and they were obliterated. And I'm shook up. I mean, I'm literally with a ticket in my hand. I'm shook up. So this is where sometimes and I'm going to use the Melendez brothers. I'm not saying they're right. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just using them as an example of they claim. Okay. I know So I'm not claiming, I know. So when I had to answer a couple questions, my mother asked me some questions. Okay, not about a ticket or nothing. I answered. My aunt asked me a couple questions. I answered. My best friend is watching this. All of a sudden, I said something, and my mother gets up. She walks over to me. True story. I'm going to, bam, solid right across the left side of my face. Bam, solid right across the right side of my face. And I heard myself saying, hit me again. This is my mother. Hit me again. Bam. I know what it is to black out and see or not see because the dark side has come full around. Chucky came out. My inner guy is Chucky. My name is Chuck, Charles, okay? Chucky. Chucky came out and beat the shit out of my mother. I had no idea. When I finally came around, when I finally was able to see, I came out of the darkness. My mother was at the bed of my feet in a fetal position. And I'm not proud of this. I'm just telling you the way it is. I'm telling you what happened. And she wore those bruises on her stomach for over a month. That's how bad I beat her. Can you imagine what I would have done to my stepdad if I would have went off?
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just going to beat him up. I would have killed him.
Right.
And tell my mom, my foster mom, calmed me down and said, you can't let him win. She's absolutely right. And he didn't. And I didn't go over there. But I do know at my mom's funeral, when he wanted to open the casket again after they had already, and at the mortuary, lift up the casket, and they're lifting her head up and kissing her all over the makeup and stuff all over her face. And I'm just sitting there holding my hand like this. I just want to put her to rest. We got to the cemetery, and my stepdad wanted to open the casket one more time. And I looked at it and said, you're not opening it. Like this, you're not opening it. And because I had that moment with him where he knew, and I think I told you that funny thing of me giving him the thing, he knew that I could take him. And he didn't open the casket. And that was the last time I saw that man. But I heard through the grapevine that he had ended up dying, because I told you 2 weeks after he passed, my mother passed away. He got married.
Right.
So a manager of the bar, a bar that they had attended, and she beat him up. But I found out later on in life that he died in a trailer park in a small trailer with long hair, long beard, fingernails that were like this long with nicotine and all on, that he died a very not a real good way to go out. But he paved his way, regardless if he had traits or not. He paved his way, and what goes around comes around. So he got what he deserved. So why would I want to continue that? I let it go, and I needed to move on for me.
Absolutely.
I needed to make changes for me in my life.
Again, Chuck, I'm so glad that you're here and sharing. I think it's so helpful. My hope and my prayer, I think too about one thing that my son had said, and then I want to move into how do you stay so positive, and what you have chosen to do now with all of that pain, and how it has turned into purpose. But I remember, Melinda, you saying that, it's kind of reminded me, and then as well as what Chuck has been saying, is my son, after what his biological father had chosen to do, my husband now had asked if he could adopt my children, my biological children, and I said, of course. After having a conversation with my son said, I would love to be adopted, but I want to keep my last name. And my thought was, why? Why do you want to keep that last name? And I asked him, why? And not forcing my son, I just wanted to find out, why do you want to keep that last name? He said, because I want to destroy the bondage, the barriers, the traits that come
The cycle.
My last name. The cycle. I want to destroy the cycle. I want to break these chains, and I want it to stop and I want it to stop with me. And so I'm going to keep my last name. And so I understand, you know, my gosh, going through everything that people that are on now who have commented and have said just bits and pieces, how, you know, they hate their parents, their mom or their dad. And also the fact that you, Charles, you became self-aware. Thank God you went to see a psychiatrist and began your healing and your journey to forgiveness. And the one thing that really sticks out in my mind is, you know, God's hand is in our lives. And yes, there is free will. He gives us free will, and but he is there to protect us. And I think when you shared that at 3 years of age, you're swinging on a swing, you're looking at the blue sky, and you know at that moment that Jesus loves you, and you made a promise to him that if he would just let you grow old and
make it right,
you would make it right. And this is what you're doing now. How do you stay so positive, and what have you chosen to do with your pain? What is the purpose behind your pain?
well, first of all, know this: if it feels good, do it. Okay, positive energy, what goes around comes around. Okay, positive energy. It's like I have a tattoo on my forearm right here. I don't know if you can really see it, but there's a negative. And my oldest granddaughter put this together for me. There's a negative, and then the red says changed. Then you see a positive right here, and you see a lightning bolt. So I had negativity in my life, and I changed, and now it's all about the power of positivity.
I love that.
Because positivity puts a smile on your face. The negativity is the foundation. What I went through is the foundation of who I am today. That is the base, that is the dirt, that is the mud, that is whatever that I had to trek through in my life. With the wisdom and the knowledge that I have today, that is the foundation of who I am today. I do not wish my life on nobody. I don't. But I wouldn't change a thing, because I wouldn't be who I am today if I didn't go through the journey that God. See, when we're conceived, God has already got a plan for us. He's already given us a direction. We already have a journey. But he also gives us an hourglass, and only he knows how much sand is in the hourglass for us to complete the journey that he gave us when he gave us life. Is it a long one? Is it a short one? I've lost 7 children altogether. I know what it is to have a short sand of hourglass. But the bottom line is, if it feels good and it puts a smile on your face, do it. And a lot of times that smile is based on conquering those things that you never thought you were able to get over, but you did, and it feels good. So continue to do it. My world today, my vision today, I work with a lot of youth. This weekend, I ended up doing 9 softball games, 10 and under, girls softball, 5 games on Saturday, 4 games on Sunday. I loved it. I actually posted it on Facebook of me being around that environment, seeing those kids, listening to their parents. That's the negative side of it. But ultimately watching those girls get their little rings or their little medallions or whatever for participating that weekend, that's what it's all about. Because see, the youth of today are the future tomorrow.
That's right.
Their foundation today is what's going to get them through their tomorrow. And so for me, I just want to pay it forward. I want to give back to where I come from. And I want them to understand what the negative is. I want to educate them on the negative. If they're in a negative environment, is that how you want to live your life? Have you ever heard you sound just like your mother and act just like your father? Those are traits. Okay, the good side of it is Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, Halloween, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. That's the positive side. And if you live in a positive environment, the chance of the real chance of you going to school, getting an education, getting married, having a family, doing Christmas and Easter and Thanksgiving with your children, strong possibility. If you live the way that I lived, it's going to be a little rougher ride. But as you conquer those traits, those negativities, as you put them at the base of the foundation and you grow off of that, you appreciate where you are now to where you've been, and you just want to continue to do that. So my life now strictly exists on putting smiles on people's faces, whether they're young or whether they're adults, that maybe they were in the same position I was, and just hitting them in the face, not physically, but verbally, with maybe, have you ever checked yourself of how you're acting now? And you know what was your dad like, or what was your stepdad like, or what was your uncle or grandpa, whoever raised you, or your grandma, what were they like? Are you doing that, whether it's positive or negative? It's because now you become aware of. So I'm an advocate. I'm actually NASCA, National Association of Adult Survivors of Childhood Abuse. I am an ambassador to NASCA. And you can look it up. It is an organization that people like us, older people, still have the memories, still deal with the things. Some still can't get over it. They were so deep they couldn't get over it. And I do my best. I don't want to live the life that I lived. I don't want to put anybody through what I was through. So I learned, and now I want to help people make that change. See, that's why I'm no longer Me Inc. Now. I had a program called Me Inc. Now, which stands for me expressing I need change now. And I got that one day about 10 years ago in the garage for 8 hours. I was just doodling, putting these words together, and I came up with MEINCNOW. And God was with me. And I'm like, okay, God, what does this mean? Okay, no. Oh, hey, me expressing I need change now. And now that I got you, because I'm going to get you. Trust me, I already got you. Now that I got you, I'm going to help you incorporate. Because people tell me, even my speaking coaches, do you know what INC stands for? Sure, I know what it stands for. Incorporation. Okay, so let me put my sales pitch to you. Okay, me expressing I need change now, and now I'm going to help you incorporate me. That's what came through me. Because when you incorporate me, nothing is done unless it goes through you. You can't have number two until you take care of number one.
That's true.
So when you look at it, Me Inc. Now Consulting was helping people become aware that change is, but negative change is possible. And we're going to help you incorporate me. How do I get over the things that I've got or I've done and are still doing? How do I get over? Because I still can't accept it. Well, first of all, you're not going to change until you accept. You got to get out of denial. Okay. If you're doing it, there's a reason why you're doing it. And if you want to change, then the change happens to you, not through me, to you. So, but now within the speaking world, I had like 10 years of that, and it's still the base of who I am. Okay. Me expressing I need change now. It's still part of when I go out and I speak, but now it's follow your dreams athletics. I work with youth because I have young adults that are playing in the NFL, playing D1 colleges, running for mayor of Compton, okay, that indeed followed their dreams. So Coach Chuck, your locker room coach in this game of life, sounds a lot better. You know, there's a grip to it. There's some teeth there, rather than saying, "Oh yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of Me Inc. Now." Well, what's Me Inc. Now? There's no catch. There's no sale to that. Well, Coach Chuck, your locker room coach in this game of life, there's a catch to it.
Absolutely. You know, you said you wouldn't wish your childhood on anyone, but you wouldn't change it for anything. And do you feel like I feel like you are a vessel, and you are where you are at, working with at-risk teens, speaking to all of these children. God, like you said, God had a plan. And we have to learn, we go through the suffering, we go through the pain, we go through the beatings, the abuse, and all of that. And when you can become self-aware of, even when you start to do it yourself, and then here comes the change. You made a promise to God. You are fulfilling your promise to him. He's fulfilling his promise to you. And your pain has turned into your purpose. And who better to work with children that come from at-risk homes of abuse and neglect than someone who's been through that,
Well,
right?
I had a meeting today with a district in this local area, not the Fort Wayne, but another district about 25 minutes away. And it's Garrett Kaiser Butler Community School District, Community School District. And I had met the head baseball coach, the varsity baseball coach, when I was umpiring a game, and him and I hit it off. And then he happened to be a counselor. See, this is how good God is. Puts you in places where eventually things are going to work the way that they're supposed to work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so I met this coach, and he kind of sort of liked, how I carried myself and how I represented and how enthusiastic I am around our youth.
Mm-hmm.
And he happens to be a counselor at the middle school in Garrett, Indiana. Well, he went to the case facilitator at the district, and they set up a meeting that I had today, the very first time on a Google Meet. Okay. And I was all freaking out, like, and Elena had to help me out because I was like all freaking out. Like, I finally get used to StreamYard, okay, and lives and Facebook Lives, and now I gotta worry about connecting on Google Meet. Well, I did. And we talked for about an hour, and you know what? Uh they have a lot of at-risk youth that they have in their districts, middle school and high school. We talked about some of my workshops or the presentations. I have a Monopoly presentation I put on where I bring in probably 50 kids, however many of their spots are on the board. So you got 10, however many spots. And as the kids come in, you give them a card and they go on the board because it's like it's like a bunch of tables squared off. You got community chess, you got chance in there. Okay. And they sit down in the tables where the property might be on the Monopoly board, and you play the game. And so I told them about Monopoly. They're very interested in that. It's a learn how to monopolize. But they were also very interested in wanting to know, because if you ever heard "Dear Younger Me" from Mercy Me,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
listen to that song.
Yep.
And I like playing that all the way up to the part where it says, "Dear Younger Me, if I only knew it wasn't my fault."
Mm. This is how good God is, because I was
Mhm.
just getting ready to ask you, what would you tell your younger self?
I actually have, when I go in, I show pictures of me when I was young, and it's really weird, man. It really is weird. When you look at the younger Chuck or Charles Gary Prinzen Jr., you see a stare, like my graduation picture, or even a younger picture, like when I was like 11 or 12. One eye is looking like you can see it's looking, and the other one is just a glare, like an eye that you say, well, that person's just looking right through me.
Mm.
I have two separate eyes because I have a split personality, and
Mm.
you can see it in that child's face. So I know where I wanted to go. I know what I wanted in my life. I also know that when I was in high school, my senior year, that three periods a day, uh, I was in a kindergarten class across the street at an elementary school, working with kindergartners that were not going to make it onto the first grade, and some of them went on to the first grade because I wanted to give back to them. I wanted to give them some peace, some joy, some happiness while I had them, thinking that they probably would go home to the same environment that I lived in.
Mm.
So I've been working with youth since I was a senior in high school.
Wow. It made my eyes water a
They
little
are
bit there.
they are the future tomorrow. So how are we going to treat them? How are we going to pave their way? How are we going to lay the pavement for them that they can walk on, that they can feel comfortable walking on? Well, you do it by one, showing them that you're not going to lie to them. Don't be fake. Our youth today can tell if you're fake. And if you're fake, you're not going to deal with them. Or they're not going to deal with you. They're just going to shut you down. So show them that you're real, and show them how to feel what they really want to feel. Because I know all that time that I was in the life that I lived, all I ever wanted was to be loved. But the only time that I was really loved is after I got beat and my stepdad would tell me he loved me, or my mother. That was a weird, and that was hard for me to get over. How can you tell me you love me, and my mother, but you beat us? So I in my life now, I just want to give back to where I come from, pay it forward, and help our youth, because they are the future tomorrow. I mean, this world is already jacked up as it is. It really is.
It
And to
is.
hear and to hear though the counselor and the uh, uh, district facilitator, case facilitator that I talked to today, they even asked me if I could help the teachers make changes. And I reverted back to another song from the 70s, which is Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes. Anybody want to listen to it? It's a really beautiful song. It's a story in the 70s. It's happening today. You know, some of those songs from yesterday are happening today. And in that, it starts off with uh, uh, wake up, all you teachers, time to teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen to what you have to say. That's true. Stop dealing with the old, stop dealing with what was, and understand what is a new way of working with our youth.
Mm,
We're in a different generation,
exactly.
and they are living in a different way that is today. Not a decade, decades, 3 decades, 4 decades ago. They're living in today. And if you really want to work with them, you have to know how to work today. And as I was telling, and I'll try and do this real quick, I was telling them, I worked at the school as a campus supervisor for 7 years. And I was the one that they called to go into detention and cool things down, because kids believed in me. They've
Mm,
always believed in me. I just remember telling them that Johnny comes into school on Monday. He probably had a really bad weekend. He probably ran away, like I did. He probably ran away, but he's got to go to school because he's got to get his education, because that's what he has to do. Well, he's not real happy because he's living in a negative environment. So now Miss Johnson, that really doesn't care how Johnny acts, or Bobby or Charles or whatever, doesn't act like, really doesn't want him in her class. And so the bell rings, and Johnny finally decides to sit down after the bell rings, and she's already got the detention slip filled out for not just 1 day, but 3 days. How the hell are you going to kick a kid out of your class on Monday for 3 days? Aren't you going to give him an opportunity? So this case facilitator and the counselor asked me, do I have ways to educate the teachers on how to make changes? I said, absolutely. So
I
hopefully,
feel like you are giving children what you didn't have. It's like you're the perfect person, Charles. You're
I'm blessed.
yes, and you have a gift. You have a gift. God has blessed you with a gift. Thank God for you that you are able to connect with those children. Those children connect with you. They trust you. That's hard to gain a child's trust, and to especially children that are at-risk children that come from homes where they're beaten and abused. They don't trust. They don't know what it feels
They
like for someone to really care about them and listen and hear them.
they
Yes, God.
have that they have that force field around them. What I've learned how to do is I've learned how to slowly, sometimes it takes a while, slowly get that defensive mechanism to go down to where I can get here.
Mhm.
And once I got here, I got them. I got them. So I don't know if you're going to ask me, but I will just go ahead and put it out there. If anybody's interested, or like
Yes.
what they're hearing, you can go to followyourdreams.com, and all my information on how to get a hold of me is on there. It's a really good website that my beautiful wife Elena put together for me. She's really good at what she does. I've traveled all over the country. Sometimes I don't do it for anything. I do it because I'm keeping that promise. Money's good. Like today, they said, well, you said it wasn't about the money. It really isn't. It's about me keeping that promise. So that when I'm in front of that pearly gate and it's my turn to be judged, they're going to look at what I was to where I'm at and they go, oh, we're going to let you in on probation, bro.
So my final question for you is, after everything that you've been through, from childhood to teenage to youth to young adult to adult, after everything you've been through, Charles,
Great grandpa,
great grandpa, great husband, after everything you've been through, who would you say that you are? Who is Coach Chuck today? Who are you today? After everything.
Sometimes you have to think and let it process through you, because you want to give a really strong response. God gave me Inc. now. I still use Me Inc. now. But now, and know this, I'm the CEO and founder of both Me Inc. now Consulting and Follow Your Dreams Athletics. I just found the name. It just came to me. Okay. And I am the CEO, but I'm not the chief executive officer. I have courage educating others. That's my CEO. Okay. So when I look at what the question that you asked me, the bottom line is I had dreams growing up. And I can honestly say that almost 70 years old, I followed those dreams and my dreams are becoming reality. And every day I wake up, I'm blessed. If you ask me every day, the same answer is going to come out of my mouth. The very first thing out of my mouth is, I'm blessed. Thank you for asking. And I'm blessed every single day to have been given the journey that God gave me to be the man or be the person that I am today, so that I can be that advocate, so I can be that coach, so I can be that teacher, so I can be that person, that mentor that I had, that you can be comfortable and open yourself up to, literally, truly open yourself up to. So if I had to answer the question to that is, I've allowed myself, I've through all the wisdom, and this is all wisdom and knowledge. Every single one of these, all these white ones every single one is wisdom, knowledge that I've gained in the years that I've lived. And I can honestly say that today, I know for a fact that I'm here for a reason and that God has allowed me to follow my dream.
That's beautiful. I'll tell you what I see. I see a man who honestly has kept his end of the bargain up on his promise to the Lord, to our Father Jesus Christ, to God. When you were swinging on that swing, that little boy who was introduced to the Lord introduced himself to you. I see a man who is upholding his end of the promise, and I see a man who is being for others what he needed, and you are good at it. You are a vessel for the Lord, Charles. I thank God for you. The children whose lives that you are in, they are blessed beyond measure. They are blessed beyond measure. I see a man who is following his dreams and who is living the life that God set before him.
I'm gonna end with this. It's pretty sad. And thank you so much for the kudos, for the kind words. But right after I moved here last year, I settled in, I got my apartment, got my furniture, everything was good. God told me to become a big brother. True story. And I got references of people that know me, really, really good references. And I went through all the questioning and everything. And then I had a meeting with a lady one-on-one, and there was another gentleman in there. And it was about a 2 hour, something like that. And then I got a call about 3 days later that told me that they wanted me to wait another year, that they didn't think I was quite ready to be a big brother. That was pretty devastating. So for you to see me, for people that know me, okay, to be denied that, see that's the dark side, wanting you to stop.
Yes.
To destroy you, to ruin your self-esteem, your self-worth, or your self-respect, to put a dent in it, to give you a second thought of, do I really? Sure, I want to be a big brother. Well, maybe that's not what God really intended me to do at this particular time. I mean, you have to look at it. You have to digest it. You have to eat it. You have to solve. See, eating it, tasting it, all of that is all good. But in order to really, really get it right, you got to digest it, and you got to keep it down, because that's when you're able to filter. And so when I filtered all of it, yeah, it's negative, but it's probably the best thing that happened, because then I would only been really, because it was a commitment for 1 year. Like, I'd have been committed to one individual, and I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing. So you have to look at it openly. Yes, it hit me pretty hard. Me, of all people, anybody that's watching me or listening, and you also, and again, I'm grateful for the praise that you're giving me, can see who I am and what our youth mean to me, helping
Yes.
them become the better themselves for tomorrow. I got a young lady right now that I saw on Facebook. She said, "Today is my first day at EMT school." I remember when she was running on a freshman at Wilsey Wood High School in Northern California, and she was bad. She was one of those at-risk youth. But look at her. Maybe she followed her dreams, and she is now in her first day in Texas, in her first day in EMT school.
Hey, good for her.
I'm a true firm believer in this. If you allow the negativity, if you allow the poison to stay in, the longer you allow, and that's why one of my workshops is talk to the man in the mirror, Michael Jackson. I'll play it, and I'll talk to that man in the mirror, which is me. And in most cases, that person's not going to talk back because it doesn't want to talk back. But eventually, that person will start talking back. Well, who are you talking to? You're talking to you. So uh, I appreciate that thought. You got to learn to release the poison from within. If you allow it to fester, it's going to explode one day. So I want to leave all of your listeners that, especially this beautiful lady that mentioned that she feels difference listening to this podcast. Release the poison. Whatever it is, try to find a way to release it, because the negativity is only going to allow you to stay negative and keep you down. Positivity is going to put a smile on your face. You're going to have that glow about you, and it feels good. So, what they say, like they say on the Nike commercials, if it feels good, do it. And what I do feels good, and I'm going to continue to. Where's my Nike swag? I got a Nike swoosh right here. Do it. Right here. Yeah, it's right there. Just do it.
Right. That's
because
right.
It feels good. So, like I said, anybody out there that's listening that might know somebody or involved with some type of organization that needs a positive speaker,
We'll hit you
go into
up.
my website and hit me up, because it ain't about money. Like I told the people today at Garrett, it's not about money. She said, "Well, there's going to be some money involved." I said, "That's all good. I'm not going to say I'm not going to take the money, but I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because it makes me feel good."
Absolutely. Man, you are a light, Coach Chuck, and we love you. And we are so grateful that you said yes to coming on and sharing. Boy, you've helped a lot of people for sure. Even changed my mind a little bit and helped me to not, to maybe look at situations a little bit differently and not so negatively at first. Yes, sometimes those doors that shut, it hurts, but sometimes God has a bigger, better door for you to walk through. So,
And you know that people are looking at us. I'm not going to get up and go get mine, but back in your backdrop by that bull on the would be your right hand side, is my left hand side, is that book, and I think that's your Queen's edition.
Yes, thank you
I
for saying that.
I am one of the authors in the just released. I just got my books in. I'm not trying to sell. I'm trying to bring awareness that I surrendered. Okay. This book is about surrender to rise. There's 7 men, 6 counting me, that have wrote in this book, Surrender to Rise, that my wife, Elena Rodriguez, put together, that the book just came out. And I'm not trying to sell you, but if you really, really want to get some inspiration, you got the Queen's edition, you got the King's edition. Hit Tish up. She knows how to contact me, or you know how to contact me, and reach out, because those
Absolutely.
books are about people like Tish and I, and what is it? 13 altogether. It was 9 of you, 9 and 7 is 16 altogether that chose to put our journey of surrendering. And then we rose in a book called Surrender to Rise, the Kings and the Queens edition that I got my commercial in.
Well, amen. And I will put the link to the showyourcrown.com where you can order one from there as well. Melinda says she cannot wait to read the King's edition. And or you can, yes, reach out to myself or Coach Chuck Charles, and we can get you one for sure.
Yeah,
So
autographed at that.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
I thank you so much. You're so amazing. Thank you for coming on and sharing and giving some hope to others. So I appreciate you. And thank you everyone that listened and came in and joined us again. And if you missed last week's episode, you want to go back and listen to Coach Chuck share his story, the beginning, and what he moved through and how he got to where he is today. So thank you, everyone. I appreciate you. Thank you, Coach Chuck, for coming in. We appreciate you.
Mahalo.
And then until next time, guys, we will see you next week on No Judgment Here with Tish Ross, the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Have a good night. Bye.
This is your Prospera era, where dreams align with grace, abundance flows like rivers. You've stepped into your place. Rise, reign, and remember, you were born to shine. Welcome to your moment, Prospera, it's time.
We hope you enjoyed today's show on Prospera TV Network. Make it a point to visit us on YouTube and catch all your favorite shows anytime you want. Interested in hosting a show of your own? Or advertising your business on our network? Contact Elena Rodriguez.